areas outside of the Kerrville area, and because of more expected storms that will pose life-threatening danger over the next 24 to 48 hours. I want to emphasize, however, even though we now are broadening the area that we're focused on, we are not at all reducing our focus on Kerrville. They remain a key focus in so many different ways. We continue 24/7 operations to search for anybody who was affected by that deadly storm. We still have our Department of Public Safety assets, the National Guard, Texas Task Force 1 and 2, and game wardens, all fully engaged in responding to the disaster in Kerrville. We also intensify our focus on the families affected by this. They're going through horrific events that have turned their lives upside down. We're working to aid them, assist them with regard to counseling, grief, all kinds of things we can do to assist those families. One of the most important things that we can do is to address their greatest concern, and that is there are so many families that are still waiting to learn about their loved one. And we are working 24/7 to get the information that will be able to answer their question. What I can tell you is several things. I had the opportunity yesterday to visit Camp Mystic and get to see firsthand what happened there, as well as all the way downstream after that. And it was nothing short of horrific to see what those young children went through. And we will remain 100% dedicated, searching for every single one of the children who were at Camp Mystic, as well as anybody else in the entire riverbed, to make sure that they're going to be recovered. We know that parents and families, they want information, they want closure, and we want them to know that we are working as swiftly as possible to get them accurate information that will provide that closure. I do want to thank the local officials, city and county and otherwise, who also are working around the clock to make sure they are addressing those concerns. The information I'm going to give you is as of this current moment in time, knowing that this information will constantly change throughout the remainder of today as well as in the coming days. In Kerrville and Kerr County, there are 59 confirmed deceased. There's still 11 missing from Camp Mystic. Separate from there, in the Central Texas area, there are confirmed 10 deceased. And across the state, in all the areas affected by flooding, there are 41 known missing. So important to emphasize this, especially in the Kerrville area. There were so many people who were just camping out, not children in camps, but adults camping out near the river, people in RVs and things like that. There are people who are missing who are not on the known confirmed missing because we don't yet know who they are. We will maintain our ongoing search throughout the entire river system to find anybody who may be missing. One thing that could help this is if you are a relative or friend of someone that you think was in Kerrville or Kerr County that you think is missing, please contact the local officials in Kerr County and let them know that you have the name, identification, and other information about a person who is suspected to be missing. If, however, you don't have confirmed information about that and you're making phone calls, you are slowing down the process of the first responders being able to respond to those who are clearly identified as missing. If you're doing that, you're interrupting official business, and that could be potentially illegal. Call only if you have specific information. While we continue the search process in Kerr County, we are now also beginning the process of responding to the disaster that took place. Includes things like debris removal. Anybody who's seen any images whatsoever in the Kerr County area, you know there's debris all over the place. that makes roads impassable, that makes reconstruction projects unachievable, that makes search process more difficult. And the state and local governments are working now on that debris removal process. That process is improved because of President Trump's swift declaration of our major disaster declaration. He ensured in less than 24 hours that major disaster declaration was approved, ensuring that state and local governments are going to have more resources to be able to respond to that disaster, more resources to begin the debris removal, more resources to help individuals who've been impacted by this, as well as local governments that have been impacted by this. Bottom line is this, and that is the swift and very robust action by President Trump is an extraordinary help to our response. I also want to thank Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, with whom I spent the day yesterday in Kerr County. I've been doing this a long time, and I've never seen anybody as responsive and as quickly in her response as what she was yesterday. She didn't wait to get back to us. She was able to, in a matter of minutes, get answers to very important demands. And on behalf of the state of Texas, we cannot thank her or the Trump administration enough. I've also been in contact with, and people reached out from Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Burgum, and others that in the entire administration are a tremendous help. I also want to add that there are governors across the country that have been in contact with either myself or with Chief Nim Kidd or state agencies offering their assistance, including Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the governor of Arkansas, Kim Reynolds, the governor of Iowa, Jim Pillen, the governor of Nebraska, Bill Lee, the governor of Tennessee, Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, the governor of the state of Oklahoma, and Governor Landry in Louisiana. And again, I'm sorry if I missed some. I know there's others that are constantly reaching out. We're here, as I mentioned, in Austin today because there have been lives lost in this greater region. And importantly, there are dangers over the next 24 to 48 hours that could pose public safety threats to people in these regions. There is heavy rainfall that's already occurred, and there's more heavy rainfall that's expected that will lead to potential flash flooding broadly in these regions: the Big Country, Concho Valley, Central Texas, and once again, Kerrville. The point is this: if you're in any of those regions, you need to realize, for one, you're in an area with land that's already saturated with water. But for another, that when more water comes down, it could lead to rapid flash flooding events. Now, there's nothing expected at this time to the magnitude of what was seen in Kerrville. That said, flash flooding can occur at lower levels of water than what happened in Kerrville. It's a particular threat for people who are driving on roadways. Some of the lives lost in Central Texas were people who were swept away in vehicles or in similar crossing type situations. Know that rising water on roads can occur very rapidly. You may think that you can drive through it, only to find out when you're in there that it's too late and that you're getting swept away. And so we urge everybody to be extraordinarily cautious for the next 24 to 48 hours. If there's any water on the road, you got to be safe. There's an old saying for a reason, because it's true, and that is, turn around, don't drown. You don't need to get from point A to point B if it's going to risk your life. Your job, the most important thing you can do, is to protect your lives. And taking a step back, for all of us up here, that's our number one job. We put public safety first, and we'll worry about the physical damage second. There are still public safety issues and lives to be saved in Kerr County. There are lives to be saved in all these regions that I just mentioned here. We want our fellow Texans to be safe and secure And you can do more about that yourself than anybody else can. With that, I think, pass it to you, Colonel.
Yes, sir.
Colonel Freeman Martin of the Texas Department of Public Safety.
It's been a tough 3 days for Texans, and I can assure you here at this table today that everything that can be done is being done. Currently, we have operations going on in several different counties. Williamson County had 3 people missing. They recovered 1, 2 are still missing. Ongoing searching. Burnett County is missing, 2 people missing. The fire chief and a 17-year-old female. The Department of Public Safety is offering any and every resource that we have to help with those searches, whether it be boat teams, rescue, divers, helicopters, drone operators, drones. So there's a lot of work being done. The governor's very accurate. The ground is saturated, so now a little bit of rainfall and watershed can cause issues. Williamson County is well aware of that. The ground was saturated. They knew that it had issues, and they evacuated neighborhoods, which saved lives. And all that being done, they still have 3 that were washed away. I'll touch on Kerr County. We have about 230 DPS personnel assigned to Kerr County, and everybody thinks about search and rescue and what we're doing. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're filling every gap, and first off, this is nothing negative about Kerr County. They've got a very good sheriff. Their fire chief is exceptional. Their police chief is exceptional. Everybody's working together. The outpouring of support, there's a lot of volunteers. There's a lot of good stuff going on, but there's a lot of there's just a huge need, and it's a large area. So we're providing 18 tactical marine units with boats. We've got 65 CID personnel assigned, over 230 in total, 11 Texas Rangers, 28 from our Special Operations Group, our SWAT guys. In addition to that, we've got 9 helicopters with tactical flight officers. We're providing cell towers and trying to solve the issues with the radio communications and their cell phone communications. We've provided communications operators to embed with them to handle 911 calls and handle calls with concerned family members. Dealing with the families of these missing individuals, there's no higher priority for us than finding those children. We've assigned commissioned personnel and victim service personnel to the family that are working. They're with them 24/7, can answer or address any needs that they have and get them any information they have. This is tough work, recovering them. So we have victim service personnel there to work with officers that are conducting the search operations additionally. We have some unidentified individuals at the funeral home, adults and juveniles. The Texas Rangers are collecting DNA from family members and from the deceased victims, and we're flying those to the University of North Texas in Dallas, and we will have answers with rapid DNA in hours, not days, to get some closure and information back to these families. We have, in the last couple of days, an outpouring of support from our federal partners, DEA, HSI, and FBI. We've embedded them with our search and rescue teams. This is tough work. It's hot. They're in the mud. They're removing debris. There's snakes. There's water moccasins. This is God's work that they're doing. So, the top priority is the family and the victims. Pray for them, but throw our first responders in there, because there's a lot of good work going on. We're not taking away from any resources from Kerrville to pre-stage here. We're pulling from South Texas, West Texas, and North Texas into Central Texas to prepare for our emergency response. We're well prepared. The legislature, the governor, in previous years have been overwhelmingly supportive of law enforcement and gave us the resources, so we're prepared to respond to events like this in multiple regions of the state at the same time. So, Governor, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, General Seltzer with the Texas National Guard.
Good afternoon. The Texas Military Department remains decisively engaged across the flood operations area. Our current force composition, we have 230 personnel operating. We're flying 8 helicopters, and we've increased the size of our force of high-profile military vehicles to help evacuate people from high water areas. We've also expanded our operations area to not only include Kerrville, but we now have personnel operating in San Saba and Burnett. The additional resources we've added since our last briefing are a behavioral health officer in Kerrville, a chaplain in Kerrville. We also sent a chaplain to San Saba. We've expanded the state's Air Operations Center, which is a multi-agency air coordination center hosted by TMD, but it includes every agency that operates across the interagency in Texas. So inside that operations center, we can ensure that the right asset is going to the right location to do the right job. Additionally, today we have launched the MQ-9 Reaper remotely piloted aircraft out of Houston. That aircraft departs Houston, goes out over the Gulf of America, and climbs to 18,000 feet. And then along a special FAA corridor, traverses over to the Kerrville area to conduct persistent SAR, persistent incident awareness and assessment operations. It's truly an eye in the sky for our search and rescue people. I'd like to thank the Federal Aviation Administration today. Due to weather at 18,000 feet, we could not transit from the Gulf of America to the Kerrville area. The FAA granted a temporary flight restricted area through a lower altitude, which allowed our aircraft to safely transit across Texas and operate in the Kerr County area. In terms of rescues and evacuations for the Texas Military Department, we have a total of 525 rescues or evacuations. 366 have been by air and 159 by ground. Of those count, 20 ground evacuations occurred in San Saba and 5 air evacuations occurred in Burnett. And that concludes my brief. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Now with the LCRA, there it is, Phil.
Good afternoon. I'm Phil Wilson, General Manager of Lower Colorado River Authority. I think the most significant message we have in the general area right now is that if and when we get more rain, please stay off the lakes. The lakes have a lot of debris right now. It's not safe to be boating. It's not safe to be out there. We'll let you know when it is, but critically, stay off the lakes. It's July. People are used to summer, and this is not a good time to be out there. To echo, we're working very closely with law enforcement. We have our rangers deployed to Burnett County right now with our mobile command center trying to support the activities up there. It's a partnership working all together with law enforcement, TNM, and everyone that's showing up to help assist. It's a very critical time for us. Next, what the governor said, we have a lot of saturation. We opened gates up at Wirtz and Starkey the last couple of days. Those are closed right now. We're ready just in case we need to. We've added more than 350,000 acre feet to the height of Lakes Buchanan and Lake Travis. We're 67% full. We have a lot of room in headroom in case more water does come in to make sure those reservoirs do what they're supposed to do, which is to capture the water for the future and protect against flooding. Thank you, Governor.
Very good. Now, Chief Nimkit.
Thank you, Governor. And I want to remind everyone, life safety is still our #1 priority. And what I mean by that is, and Colonel Martin said it very well, Kerrville and Kerr County have great local emergency managers and responders. They really do. But they're a community of about 55,000 people. And they had a lot of people there that were not from that area visiting, vacationing. And their resources, and this is what state agency, what the state government does when a local community gets overwhelmed, is we send in additional resources. So our hats are still off to all of those local responders that live and work in that community, and that their homes and families were also impacted, and they're still there on the job. We owe them a great amount of gratitude. Second, we continue with our search, not only in Kerr County, but everywhere that we know we have missing people. And I need your help in being very cautious. Let's not get wrapped around the axle on the word recovery. You're going to start hearing the word recovery used in a lot of different contexts. Be very careful how you use that word, because I'm going to be careful how I use that word as well. We are going to begin recovery operations. That is debris cleanup. That is opening roads. That does not mean we are no longer doing search for live victims, because we still are. We are still out there in very much hopes, very much fueled by the compassion that we show for these families, that we're doing everything we can to find their missing loved ones. So please help me in making sure that we're not wasting our time and efforts on debating over the meanings of words. Let's get clarity when we ask those questions. Second, I'm asking, we've driven around Kerr County and the other areas a lot. We have a lot of people that are traveling in because they want to see firsthand the damage. I'm asking you, if you're not from the community and if you're not involved in our response and rescue and recovery efforts, stay out of the area. Stay out of the area because you don't know the area. Another thing I'm getting right this minute during this press conference is reports of an additional wall of water coming down some of the creeks going into the forks. And I want you to think about that for a second. If you're not from that area and you don't know the low water crossings, you could find yourself in a very dangerous situation. The next thing is we see a lot of information on social media about volunteers and spontaneous volunteers being frustrated because they can't help. We are evacuating parts of the river right now because we're worried about another wall of water coming down in those areas. If you're a volunteer there that you're not checked into our operations, we have no way of accounting for you right now. There is a process that we use to get volunteers into the response, and I'm asking for your help and to get that message out. It's not that we think we don't need any help. It's that we want to make sure everyone helping is doing the job that we need, where we need it, and when we need it, and we have the ability to communicate with them. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about the word recovery as it relates to the President's disaster declaration. We are very excited to begin those recovery operations with our federal partners who have been here with us in the Emergency Operations Center since last Thursday, since before all of the actual flooding and disaster started. And we're going to work very close with those partners to help our local communities and our families that are impacted by this recover from this disaster as fast as possible. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. We'll take a few questions. Go ahead.
Isabel, I know that you mentioned 10 deaths in Central Texas. Is there any way you could give us a breakdown of the cities?
We sure can. Chief Kidd has it.
So we're showing, reaffirmed 3 in Burnett County, 1 in Tom Green County, 5 in Travis County, and 1 in Williamson County. And again, those numbers are a few hours old. Those numbers could go up, but that's what we had as the time preparing for this briefing.
You said what county?
Tom Green.
Tom Green?
Tom Green.
Yes, ma'am. San Angelo area.
Thank
You just said something about a wall of water that you're just now getting reports about. Can you talk more about that and what you're seeing there?
Yeah, I'll share some of it. So I apologize for looking at my phone during the press conference, but this is the live updates that we're getting right now from the field. Is there are unconfirmed at this point reports of additional water coming in. And as the governor mentioned, there's rain still falling on the area. It's not going to take the same amount of rain that caused this damage to make the current water levels rise up, right? Because the ground is already saturated. So any rain that falls can be perceived as life-threatening rain. And so if you're in a low-lying area, we need you to move yourself out of that low-lying area. We've got DPS aircraft that are flying up to try to find this wall of water right now, and the people in the reported areas, again, unconfirmed, that are on our communication systems, we're asking them to get out of the water and out of the way so that we don't wind up having to do additional rescues.
Governor
Go ahead.
Abbott, CBS Austin, you had mentioned that there are dozens of Central Texans missing. Local resources can't continue searching in the dark of the night. Does this federal disaster declaration mean that we have federal resources to continue searching when it's pitch black?
Sure. Well, first of all, on the federal disaster declaration, it applies right now to Kerr County. Let me go back. Let me see the total, my disaster declaration counties. So let me walk you through this. So I made an original state disaster declaration, and then I amended it to add more counties. Let me first go back over those counties, then I'll explain to you what's going on. Under the state disaster declaration includes the following counties: Bandera, Bear, Burnett, Caldwell, Coke, Comal, Concho, Gillespie, Guadalupe, Kendall, Kerr, Kimball, Llano, Mason, McCullough, Menard, Reeves, San Saba, Tom Green, Travis, and Williamson. That means because of that the state is providing additional resources for those counties and state-based assistance. On the federal disaster declaration, for the time being, that includes only Kerr County. And they are waiting to see the magnitude of what happens in other counties before they may potentially expand the federal disaster declaration to include other counties.
So for now, local resources have to stop search and rescue efforts when the fall.
That's not accurate.
No.
We have drones and helicopters that have thermal and night vision and FLIR where they can search at night. Our special operations groups have that. And, at the law enforcement level, we don't really wait for a federal declaration. The feds come. They're there. They're helping. They offer assets and resources. This helps with funding and additional resources and bringing in from out of state, but our local federal partners they're very involved. So we've, of course, we're a lot more productive during the day, but we search at night, and we're seeing some really good results, which is good. But the bad news is you will see the death toll rise today and tomorrow.
One other thing to add to that is the U.S. Coast Guard, part of the federal government, was here working long before the declaration was granted based on our partnership and relationship. So we still have Coast Guard assets here, and they will operate at night as well. Thank you for the question.
Go ahead.
Bayless Wagner, also American Statesman. Could you talk a little bit more about the warnings that local officials got, the way that the state and the federal government communicated with local officials, and whether you believe that these deaths were preventable?
So there were multiple steps taken by the state that I'll let Chief Kidd talk about, but the state began setting up operations in preparation for what could happen in Kerr County. It happened in the early morning hours of the 4th, which is Friday, and the state had pre-positioned assets and resources in and around that area beginning on Wednesday before the storm on Friday. As we learned more on Thursday, more assets were provided in various regions. We knew, based upon predicted weather, certain regions where the rain may fall. There was an inability to know precisely where that rain was going to fall and how much was going to fall where it did fall. And as far as what the locals may have done, Chief Kidd may know more than I, but I would leave it up to them to let you know.
And listen, thank you for the question. We need to spend a lot of time trying to answer this question because from a technical perspective, there are multiple warning systems that are out there. And all of us can choose to sign up for warning systems in certain areas depending on the local government that we're in and the way that their system works. There's a lot of talk about a program called WIA, the Wireless Emergency Alert, and IPAWS, the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, and how they work or sometimes don't work. And then you have areas where there is no cell phone coverage. And if there's no cell phone coverage, it doesn't matter how many alert systems you sign up for, you're not going to get that. And then there's the NOAA weather radios from the National Weather Service. I'll ask you, how many of you have a NOAA weather radio by your bed at home? And so there can be all kinds of alert systems that are sent, and we know that some were sent, some general messaging was sent early, some urgent warnings were sent at various times, but just sending the message is not the same as receiving the message, having a plan to do something when you receive the message, and then the ability to implement that plan. And so I really would love to have a separate conversation with all of you about how we can continue to get the message to the public about what they need to do when they get a message, what they should do when that message is received, and how they communicate that back to their loved ones and family members.
On that topic,
Let me add this also. I don't know if you guys saw this, but the city manager for Kerrville explained that on the morning of the 4th, he was out jogging at about 3:30 in the morning, and it just then began to rain a little bit. He got home and saw that it rained a little bit more, and he saw after that the torrent of water that was coming down the river. And the point that he made was that by the moment of time when they knew the magnitude of the water, it's a difficult decision whether or not to begin evacuating people or not, because if you have a warning telling everybody to evacuate, you could actually lead them to their death. We know that some deaths in Kerrville were people who died who got swept away who were trying to evacuate. And so local officials know the best about the terrain, about the danger spots and things like that, about who might be able to evacuate, those that would just be getting into a more dangerous situation.
You talked in what you just said kind of about expertise and about just knowing the area, and that extends also to the National Weather Service folks who are in those offices and have years and years of experience. There are currently 6 vacancies in the local National Weather Service office that cover Kerr County. What is your perspective on how that could have impacted the warnings that you all were able to get and how accurate the information you all were able to get?
So I know nothing about the staffing. What I do know is what they put out. And it's my understanding that what they put out was kind of the information that the state was operating off of, and that is that there were alerts or warnings about heavy rain, potential for flash flooding, in
And you've been
certain
listening
areas.
to Texas Governor Greg Abbott giving an update on the deadly floods that hit the area, specifically in Kerr County, early July 4th. We are standing by for an update from local officials in Kerr County, but we want to get quickly to meteorologist Ryan Shoptaw. He has more information on a flash flood warning.
Yeah, so we're in constant communication right now with the National Weather Service. Right now, as of the National Weather Service, no warning has been issued, but there is some confusion happening between parts of Kerr County and Gillespie County. There is a redevelopment and a firing off of showers and thunderstorms out there. There are flood advisories that are currently in effect for parts of Gillespie County and then stretching into Kerr County. So that's the clarity right there. Now, notice there's a large storm now entering Fredericksburg. This is in effect until 5:45 tonight for a huge chunk of Gillespie County. Heavy rain, lightning about to move into downtown Fredericksburg, just southeast of Harper. Another large cluster of rain. And then to add insult to injury, we have some more rain dipping down into Kerrville right now. Now, this particular flood advisory not in effect for Kerrville, but just to the north of it, which does include Ingram. The heaviest pocket of rain right about here, but it is stretching farther south and southwest towards Ingram and then down across I-10 as well. Heavy rain, some localized downpours that'll continue to move south-southeast over the next couple of hours. Zooming out, we're going to watch this very closely because this is also moving into parts of Bandera. Heavy rain and in some embedded lightning out across Bandera County. This does go all the way towards northern Medina County. But just to reiterate, no flash flood warning in effect, nothing imminent. However, there are more storms firing up on the radar as we speak. What's current right now are a couple of things. A flash flood watch that's in effect until 7 p.m. tonight, and then a couple of separate flood advisories, one of which in Gillespie County. That does include cities like Fredericksburg and Stonewall until 5:45 tonight. A separate flood advisory right about here, which is to the north of Kerrville, and this is moving farther south and southeast. What we're going to watch very closely is just the movement and also the speed of these storms. Right now, from what we're seeing just south of Harper and north of Kerrville, it's very slow moving. And we all know too well when a heavy downpour, a thunder shower, while it's not producing any hail, if it's a tropical downpour and it's moving slowly, that could lead into a flash flood warning with the saturated ground, what we just heard about earlier with the governor. Just a lot of rain that's fallen in this particular area of the Texas Hill Country, Kerr County, Gillespie County. The ground's already pretty saturated and wet, so all this rain could slowly soak into the ground, but most of it falling off as runoff just south of Harper and across parts of the Hill Country north of Comfort and across parts of Medina County. Into the San Antonio metro, heavy downpours now materializing over Elmendorf, southeast Bexar County, right over, let's say, 410 or 1604, south of Somerset, and parts of northern Atascosa County. You can see a pretty good downpour out there as well. There it is right there. There's a pretty good downpour in southern San Antonio, just off of Columbia Heights. And there it is right there at Zarzamora, Interstate I-35 South, and right there in southern San Antonio. So we're watching some redevelopment of scattered thunder showers and storms in South San Antonio. But just to go over one more time, two things that you need to know for the next few hours: a flood watch that's in effect until 7 p.m. tonight, and two separate flood advisories that are in effect until 5:45 to 5:55, depending on which one you look at. This one right here is just north of Kerrville. We're going to have to take a look at some of the data in a second, but there's another scan on radar. Heavy rain, lightning, some localized heavy downpours, probably some precip rates up to about 1 to 2 inches of rain across northern portions of Kerr County and southern portions of Gillespie County. So yeah, that's a look at radar. So this is actually, so north of Fredericksburg, this is a flood advisory, but to the south and west, this is a newly formed flood warning. So that's north of Kerrville. This should clip Kerrville in northern Kerr County, but look at this redevelopment of some more storms off of Texas 27. So we're going to watch some of this move farther east and southeast, but this particular warning right here is a flood warning. This up farther northeast towards Fredericksburg is a flood advisory. So anywhere in this particular region, if you're off of Texas 16, just north of Kerrville, and obviously across any part of central and western Kerr County, the ground's already wet, and the heavy amount of rain could lead to some pockets and localized flash flooding over these next few hours as we're going to continue to deal with this concern. Up I-35, a couple of downpours out near San Marcos and east of 281. This is all courtesy of a large upper scale system that, if you look very closely, it's rotating. So there's a ridge to the east and then a ridge to the west. And for these last several days, this same weather system has been nonstop. It's been ongoing, and it's almost been stuck, which has led to days and rounds of showers, tropical downpours, and thunderstorms in the region, where if you saw some of the 48-hour rain totals in Burnett County near Marble Falls, across in this entire region of central Texas, upwards of 15 to 20 inches of rain has fallen in this particular region just west of Austin and north of the hill country southeast of San Angelo. Here is the embedded wind speeds. So notice that huge amount of rain that's rotating almost counterclockwise. There's the winds. They're moving in from the south right east of Dallas and then moving in from the north near San Angelo in the Concho Valley, or just right in between in a very interesting zone where the lift is just very enhanced, and that's going to continue to crank out moisture at least for the next few hours with the help of daytime heat. And then notice a lot of heavy rain is now forming east of San Angelo, and this is going to continue to move south and east, crossing over the I-35 corridor, likely clipping San Antonio by about, let's say, 3 and 4 o'clock tonight. Matter of fact, here is what we're thinking on the hour by hour and the timing for the next several hours. Again, that flood watch in effect until 7 p.m. tonight. So here it is, 4 p.m. today, more embedded, localized heavy downpours anywhere from Fredericksburg to Kendall County towards I-35, Hondo, Bandera. Now, on this particular forecast model, it's just an opinion on where it could be. But since the rain is so scattered, this could easily be farther south towards Pearsall or farther north towards Kerrville. That's why every single county, pretty much in our local viewing area, Bexar County, Medina County, towards the Hill Country, Kerr County, and Gillespie County, all underneath a flash flood watch. Here it is by 5 and 6 p.m. More embedded heavy downpours. Localized flooding is going to be a concern for some areas between here, the Hill Country towards Floresville, Seguin, Gonzales, and some of these may even enhance and get a little bit more severe the farther southeast you go. Remember, towards the Gulf, towards the Texas coast, you have more humidity, more tropical rain, more fuel you could have to enhance some of these thunderstorms. Notice out near Pleasanton by 8 p.m. tonight, we could see some leftover thunderstorms in the region. I would say after about 10 and 11 o'clock, most of the rain coverage starts to trend down slowly. But as you saw on radar, which we'll go back to in a second, it's pretty active out there. The help of daytime heat, high temperatures in the 80s and lower 90s is helping fuel some of that rain out there. Now, fast forward to Monday morning, 7 a.m. By tomorrow early, if you're getting out back to work, there will be a couple of leftover areas of light to moderate rain. That's definitely possible Monday morning. But fast forward into Monday afternoon, as you saw on that wind chart, on that wind map, there's still some leftover energy across central Texas, and that may produce another round of very widely scattered storms Monday afternoon, Monday evening. So we're not out of the woods just yet. Here's another forecast model. Some of these localized areas between now and tomorrow morning early could easily produce another round of about 1 inch to 2 inches of rain. But notice this particular map doesn't go for anything in Kerrville, but we are seeing some rain in Kerrville right now. Today's forecast, we say right around 86 to 87 for a high temperature. If you're seeing more sunshine south of Highway 90, for example, you may hit the lower 90s this afternoon, but we have that alert set for today. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, temperatures remain in the lower 90s, but we're going to keep that chance for rain around Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for a couple of localized heavy downpours that could aggravate the situation. Let's go back to radar and show you what we have. So just to reiterate, we had that flood warning issued for parts of Kerr County earlier. And let's see, so it's still in effect. Let's see the information on it. was issued at 3:17 by the National Weather Service, so about 15 minutes ago. This is in effect until 6:30 from what I'm seeing. But right here, you can see just north of Kerrville, this is just like the northern fringe of Kerr County. But notice how it's kind of drifting farther south and southeast. So this green box right here, that's the flood warning just outside of downtown Kerrville, but still localized heavy rain. And matter of fact, let's say about an hour ago, it was just a small downpour, but now it's evolving into a pretty large storm that's producing a little bit of lightning just along the border of Kerr County and Gillespie County, south of Harper and southwest of Fredericksburg. So this is going to be the breeding ground, for at least for the next 1 to 2 hours, for more thunderstorms. They're definitely going to increase in coverage as they push farther east, southeast. So this will definitely, I think, move towards Kerrville. But what I'm watching very closely is more redevelopment on the backside. More localized heavy rain south of 290 and southwest of Harper, north and northeast towards Fredericksburg. You can see this storm is now entering Fredericksburg, still embedded some lightning. This particular one is a flood advisory. This one's a flood warning for northern Kerr County, but this flood advisory is in effect until 5:45. The flood warning in effect until 6:30 later tonight. This one's for Fredericksburg and Stonewall. For this one right here, heavy rain moving into Fredericksburg as we speak. Zooming out, notice towards Bandera, large thunder shower producing a little bit of lightning just west of Bandera. But if you're driving up I-10, for example, around Kerrville, you're going to run into a wall of rain. This is likely going to lower the visibility across northwestern Kerr County and northwest Kerrville. Matter of fact, let's zoom in and show you what we have. Let's go into Ingram, Hunt. There it is right there. So let's look at that. There's Ingram right there. Hunt seeing some light to moderate rain, which again, any type of rain is adding insult to injury at this point. There's Texas 27. There's the lightning right there. Remember, this is moving southeast, east. So this is moving away from Hunt. That's the good news. But just to reiterate, there's some redevelopment of some more showers and storms that could easily evolve into a more large, heavy downpour farther into central Kerr County. So we just got the update at 3:33, the latest scan on radar. There it is right there, zooming out. No current flood advisories or warnings for Bandera County, but that could easily change because they've received a lot of rainfall over these last few days, and more rain is increasing in coverage between Lakey, Utopia, Bandera, Lake Hills, a couple of spotty downpours near Comfort. But the main concern right now, again, just to go over one more time, is the flood advisories and flood warnings that were issued recently for Gillespie County and far northern Kerr County. Outside of Comfort, mostly just a couple of pockets of light rain. You can see right there, there's Center Point. Remember, the Guadalupe River flows between Hunt towards Kerrville through Comfort and all the way east towards Canyon Lake. Towards Canyon Lake, it's mostly quiet. But across San Antonio, you can see it's really increasing across the downtown area. We zoom into downtown San Antonio. There's Palo Alto Heights. There's Wolf Stadium. There's South Cross Boulevard right there. There's the downtown region right here. There's South Zarzamora and then West South Cross Boulevard. Heavy rain. So if you're traveling anywhere in the downtown region, especially just south of Highway 90, you can see a good amount of rainfall. This particular set of storms is moving actually farther north. It's actually feeding in to that trough that's up farther north and moving closer to Highway 90. And let's just say east of Lackland Air Force Base. Let's zoom out and show you additional rain showers. There's the southeast side, north of Elmendorf, right there between Hilltop and 1604. There's 410 right there, New Sulphur Springs Road, China Grove, Sinclair Road. More light rain over FM 1346. But more of the heavy downpours is between basically Lackland, Highway 90, and then towards the southeastern side of San Antonio. Let's zoom back out and show you one more look at the hill country. And then there's Kerrville and parts of Gillespie County and near Kendall County as well. Here's the flood watch that's in effect until 7 p.m. tonight. We'll see if the National Weather Service does extend this through tomorrow, because while the coverage of rain will improve by Monday afternoon, Monday night, there will be still some leftover lingering showers around to kickstart the new work week. But notice Medina County, Bexar County, Bandera County, most of the hill country, all still under that flood watch. And this does extend all the way up I-35, or by the way, northwest of Austin. Earlier yesterday, there were some localized areas that picked up about 12 to 15 inches of rainfall. Look at the flood watch and where it extends through Waco, up I-35 just southwest of Dallas and Fort Worth. This has been the bullseye spot for several rounds in the last 2 to 3 days of just localized pockets of heavy rain that, in some observation sites, some rain gauges between I-10 and I-35 and 281, exceeding a foot of rainfall, not just in Kerr County, but several locations out near Mason, out near Brady, and along the I-35 corridor as well. Here's the flooding outlook. So we had the flash flood watch that, again, by the way, until 7 p.m. tonight. Marginal risk for flooding between Bexar County, Medina County, Uvalde, towards Del Rio, parts of, let's say, Valverde County. It does go up a level to that slight risk towards western Kerr County, Rock Springs. Now, don't pay too close attention to where exactly the colors are located. The big weather story is the storms that fire off that continue to form out in central Texas near like San Angelo, for example, and then move farther south towards the hill country, and that may cause a concern with some of the heavy rain out there. So here's radar as of 3:35 this afternoon. Flood advisory continues. So does that flood warning that was issued by the Weather Service not too long ago. 5:45 p.m. was when this one will expire. I think by and large, most of the coverage of rain will continue to fluctuate farther east towards Marble Falls, Blanco County, Johnson City, for example. But there it is, heavy rain now moving into Fredericksburg. That'll be the concern right now. Let's zoom in. There's Stonewall, there's downtown Fredericksburg, there's Highway 87. This advisory in effect until 5:45 later this evening. There's Morris Ranch, Texas 16, Kane City. There's Kerrville, right now mostly dry, but now Ingram is now getting a ton of rainfall, at least the outer edge of that moderate downpour that's now moving into Ingram outside of Hunt. More of a light rain, and this is all moving due southeast, which is why that flood warning extends all the way into eastern Kerr County and southeastern Gillespie County along Texas 16 as well. Let's zoom out and show you additional thunderstorms. So there it is right there. So there's that that redevelopment of showers that were just west of Hunt. Now it's producing a little bit of lightning, which is indicative of a strengthening cell outside of Hunt, but this is going to move into Hunt. And, we've talked about it. They've seen about 11 to 12 inches of rain in the last 72 hours. And while precip rates, for example, let's take a look at some of the data. The precip rate right here is right around 3.17 inches of rain per hour. Now, it's moving fairly slow. It should pass through Hunt probably by about 4:30. It shouldn't stall out too slowly, but if it continues to move farther east, an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain is certainly possible near Texas 39, Hunt, outside of Ingram. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Weather Service reissues maybe a secondary flood advisory or flood warning that does include Hunt. So that's going to be the concern, because precip rates with this particular storm, as it continues to grow in height, because it has a large updraft, it's producing a little bit of lightning. So as it moves east and as it encounters more humidity, more of a conducive tropical environment, that may lead to localized flooding in some parts of central and eastern Kerr County. There's Ingram, there's Mountain Wesley, and then there's Hunt right there. Precip rates with this particular storm, 3.17 inches of rain per hour. Now, that's if this storm sat over Hunt for one entire hour. The good news is these storms are moving east fairly quickly, but with more rain forming behind it, we'll have to watch that very closely. You can see as I zoom out, there's Bandera County, a couple of storms firing off near Highway 83 in parts of western Kerr County. Let's put on the loop and show you what we have and the movement of these storms. As we talked about earlier, there's that huge upper level disturbance out in like central and north Texas, and this is continuing to drop these storms farther south and southeast. So while these particular storms are moving due east, more rain is moving south-southeast. So that may be good news for downtown Kerrville and near Hunt, but in the meantime, pretty large cluster of storms that are generating a lot of lightning and some localized heavy rain. And you saw some of those precip rates are about 1 to 3 inches per hour if they were to sit over the same location. for 1 hour. So here's more rain out in northeastern Medina County. This will go over Medina Lake, or at least near Lake Hills, northeast of Hondo and Highway 90, Utopia, Sabinal, along parts of western Bandera County. Even more rain, almost backtracking, almost retrograding farther west. We just have an interesting environment that there's so much moisture, but the winds are moving in from the south in the east, but a little bit different out towards the Rio Grande, all courtesy of that, interesting unstable weather setup across central and north Texas. There's downtown San Antonio, there's Highway 90, there's Somerset, Castroville, there's San Marcos, Buda up into Austin, parts near Blanco County, near, let's say, Dripping Springs, northeast of Canyon Lake. Mostly dry, and most of this is clutter. And if anything, it's just like some drizzle, some light rain, but most of that is clutter just because we're so close to the radar site in New Braunfels right now, northwest of Seguin. Backing out the view, here's the setup. Lots of lightning and a very unstable atmosphere. More rain that's forming out near San Angelo. We may have to watch this cluster as it moves farther south, but that's significantly far away. That'll likely maybe impact the hill country in the next few hours, but notice it's towards San Angelo and far removed from our local viewing area. But the help of daytime heat, it's 340 in the afternoon, temperatures in the upper 80s, lower 90s. That's fuel. That's instability to get rain going over the next couple of hours. There are those winds impacting, providing fuel from the Gulf. That's south winds from Houston, and then it's a curvature right across Dallas and North Texas in the Red River, and the winds are coming in from the north. And remember, that's just instability in the atmosphere that'll keep rain going for these next couple of hours. Now, will the rain be everywhere from Del Rio to Hallettsville? No, not necessarily, but the embedded downpours that move through could easily produce slowly at 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour between here, Bernie, Kerrville, for example, Hondo, Pearsall, towards George West, Floresville, Pleasanton, Gonzales, LaGrange, Seguin, parts of Wilson County. And these storms might remain pretty strong by the 9 and 10 o'clock hour. This is the HRRR model. The other model is not doing a good job at initializing at what's happening in the atmosphere right now. But by 10 p.m. tonight, we could see a leftover shower or storm. Overnight tonight, cloudy skies, 1 or 2 showers in the area. And then maybe by tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, we may see more showers and storms form in central Texas, and that may clip parts of Kerr County, which could be a concern as well in the hill country. So Seguin, Floresville, Pleasanton, George West, Beeville, and east of LaGrange, and towards Columbus and east of the I-35 corridor. So we're watching this very, very closely as rain continues to form in the hill country and across the I-35 corridor, which could add insult to injury in our area. All right, so we're going to go out live to Sue Kalberg in Center Point, Texas. Sue, what are you seeing out there?
I've got a lot of new information about what is going on here in Center Point, Texas, and I'm going to we're just going to walk you through it here. If you're at all familiar with Lions Park Dam here, we came to this area because we were downstream on a search mission. There were probably 20 or 30 people on the river, close to the water, doing a search and recovery mission, with their sticks and their shovels. And a volunteer firefighter from Center Point Volunteer Fire Department, he came down on his loudspeaker and he said there was a mandatory evacuation underway for the bottom of the river channel, that there was an information that they were trying to confirm that there was a wall of water coming this way. Now that's why the dam is important, because the person who was
all right, we're going to leave Sue Kalberg there in Center Point because I understand that we are waiting a press conference in Kerrville with city and county leaders that is set to begin right now. We're being told that they're walking their way and starting. Let's listen in.
Media contact. Thank you.
Okay, once again, Larry Leith, the Kerr County Sheriff. Before I get in my notes, I want to address a couple of things. Obviously, there's been some alerts going on the phone. We have checked one. We're in the process of checking the other one. What we know on the flood warning on 1340, FM 1340, that is inaccurate. There is no water coming down 1340. We have confirmed that. On Johnson Creek, there is a rise there. That rise could put 1 to 2 feet into the Guadalupe River. We will be staying on top of that as we're here, we will definitely stay on top of that. Well, I want to use this as a good example. We get asked constantly about volunteers. You know, we got volunteers, we got this. This is a perfect example where this could hinder us. We are pulling our assets out of there right now to be safe. We'll determine when it's safe again to put them back in there. But this is one time we wouldn't be able to contact all these volunteers and get them out of there. So please understand that, and please pass that message. We have a ton of resources here. I can make a phone call and get a ton more here. We have all the resources, all the equipment, all the manpower, all the food we need, okay? Please help me pass that message on. We do have it under control. So now as we get into my notes, search and rescue operations continue with a full response from local, state, and national first responders. We continue to have hundreds of officers, deputies, and to support our staff working every aspect of this emergency, along with air, water, canine, and other assets conducting search and rescue. As of 1:30, we have recorded 68 deceased in Kerr County. Among those who are deceased, we have 40 adults and 28 children. 18 adults are pending identification and 18 adults are pending identification and 10 children are also pending identification. Once again, pending identification are 18 adults and 10 children. At present, there are 10 Camp Mystic campers unaccounted for and 1 counselor. We continue to offer our condolences to those affected, and we will work tirelessly till we reunite them with their families. We know there are many people concerned that are affected by this tragic situation. Please be careful about social media rumors and misinformation. False information can cause pain to families and those already devastated by this event. Please follow the Kerrville Police Department, our Kerr County Sheriff's Office Facebook for verified information. Please do that. All of our information put out is verified. Please note that Highway 39 west of Ingram is closed to the public. We are closing that for temporary. That is only for law enforcement resources right now. We had some issues, the public out there parking on the road, we can't get by going through stuff. Highway 39 is closed to the public. Our missing phone call center is open to those reporting missing loved ones. The phone number for that is 830-258-1111. That's the same number we've had, 830-258-1111. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dalton Rice.
Thank you, Sheriff. Again, welcome. We appreciate your patience. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have the safety of our responders, at the forefront of this, so we can continue to do search and rescue operations. First and foremost, our hearts are with the families and loved ones affected by this heartbreaking tragedy. Our entire focus at this time is on the search and reunification efforts for those remained unaccounted for. That is where our energy, our resources, and our attention are directed. Nothing is more important than bringing comfort and clarity to those who are waiting and grieving. We know questions are being asked about the emergency notification, and while it is not the time to speculate, local and regional partners are committed to a full review of the events and systems in place. At the appropriate time, we will take clear steps to strengthen our future preparedness. We owe that commitment to the families who are suffering and to every member of our community. We know many in our community are beginning the cleanup process and figuring out what's needed, whether it's clothes, toothbrushes, other essentials, or cleaning supplies. The City of Kerrville is coordinating with our regional and state partners, State Health and Human Services Commission, the Department of State Health Services Public Health Region 8, and Texas Division of Emergency Management are working to set up a family assistance care center where flood survivors can have the ability to access these supplies. We'll share more details as soon as they're available, and with that, I'll bring up Mayor Herring for information on how you can donate now.
Thank you for being here. I'm Joe Herring, Jr., Mayor of the City of Kerrville. Our work continues. Trained experts and professionals from the City of Kerrville, from Kerr County, from state agencies and federal agencies are all working together with one goal. That is to find to rescue those in peril and find those who are missing. I repeat what I said this morning. Even though different groups and different agencies are involved in the Emergency Operations Center, we are all working as one team. We want to achieve our goal of helping those who've been affected by this flood. Today I learned that another helping hand has joined the fray. HEB is setting up a mobile kitchen in Ingram. And when that kitchen is set up, it will be able to feed a lot of hungry people in the Hunt and Ingram area. If you want more information about that, just go to heb.com, /newsroom. Countless other local businesses are stepping up, they are finding needs, and they are meeting them. Now, how can you help? If you would like to make a financial donation, we recommend that you go to the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country. They have set up a portal to receive donations. That would be communityfoundation.net. People across our community, across our state, across the world have been responding to that request. If you would like to volunteer, the city has set up a partnership with our local Kerrville Salvation Army at the Kroc Center. The number to call to register to help or to donate is 830-465-4797. And when I say donate, in-kind donations. For full updates, verified updates, please follow the City of Kerrville Facebook page. Under Facebook, it's called City of Kerrville-City Hall. Finally, as I've said every time I've been before you, please pray for our community. I believe in prayer, and prayers have been answered. Thank you. And now Dalton Rice will come back up.
All right, at this time, we will take 4 questions. Tammy Prout with Hill Country.
Yes, can you tell me, you talked a lot about the bad things, the recovery, but how many rescues are you at? And of the kids that were in the camps that you couldn't get to, that were safe, that you couldn't get to, are they all evacuated?
I'm actually going to turn that one over to the sheriff, if that's okay. You have those numbers a little bit better.
Sorry, Tammy. Again, please.
So how many rescues? You were at 850 a couple days ago, and then we had the camps that you couldn't get to the campers, and they were going to be evacuated. I suspect they're all gone, but have you gotten them all out?
Yeah, included in that 850 that we put out is the campers. All the campers are out and safe. A lot of them have been reunited at this time. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry. No. Leslie McClure.
Ingram Dam. You guys got any updates on Ingram Dam?
We have no updates on Ingram Dam at this time. Amanda Henderson, KHOU.
I'm with CBS News, and she stepped up for a story, but we talked to several people in this community who say they got no emergency alerts whatsoever. Governor Abbott, in his press release, just placed the responsibility on the local agencies. So I know you're focusing on victims right now, but yes or no, did local agencies send out any emergency alerts, blares, sirens of any kind?
No, I know you guys keep asking this question. We appreciate it. We think it's important. We don't want to speculate. At this time, we know there's a lot of speculation and question around it. Again, there's going to be a full review, of this so we can make sure that we focus on future preparedness. We want to continue to focus on the families at this time, and so we're getting through that. So thank you. Leah Waldman, CNN.
Right here.
Okay.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. With focus on families here, we know that there was a National Weather Service alert issued on Thursday afternoon talking about these flood watches and issuing Cook County as a high-risk area overnight. Why not preemptively evacuate these camps? You said earlier that was a good question. Maybe it's one that needs to be answered.
Yeah, no, again, it is still a great question. And when you looked at the National Weather Service notification, when you look at that map showed Kerr County kind of in the northeast corner, and that spread all the way through San Angelo. So there's a lot of information. That's a wide area that must be addressed. And so as we were preparing for it, unfortunately the rain hit at the most inopportune time, and right in the most inopportune areas where the North and South Fork hit. It converged, and so here we are. So again, we want to continue to focus on those rescue operations, and at that, we're not taking any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That's going to do it for this afternoon. The next time that we'll be in front of the cameras are going to be 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, unless there is a major development where we need to speak to you sooner. And we will use the sign-up sheet and the contact information that y'all have provided to us to reach out to you and let you know time and place. Other than that, unless you do not, if you don't hear from us, 10 o'clock in the morning, right back here. Thank y'all so much. I'm not taking any more questions.
You were just listening in from officials there in Kerr County, from city and county leaders. Tragic update there in terms of numbers as the search and rescue operations continue, but we are learning, unfortunately, 68 people now have died. 40 of those are adults and 28 of those are children. As for Camp Mystic, that number is looking at 10 Camp Mystic campers are still unaccounted for, including one counselor right now.
And they sent out a warning. I feel for anyone who's on social media right now, officials are warning for you to be on the lookout for rumors, false information when it comes to this disaster, because our timelines are flooded with updates. So please be sure that you're following the City of Kerrville's Facebook page. Everything confirmed that they share, everything we share has been confirmed, especially when it comes to the people who have perished, the people who are still missing. So just want to send out that warning. So because of the rains that are falling on the area right now, what officials have done, they have closed Highway 39 to the public just to be safe, because you have the two forks that join near that area in Hunt, and then once they join to form the Guadalupe River, that's when all of the waters and the disasters that we saw on July 4th, that's where they all go. So if you know of someone, because Kerrville had a lot of visitors for the July 4th holiday, if you know someone who you believe was in the Kerrville area on vacation, just visiting, who you haven't heard from, there is still a missing phone call center. That number is 830-258-1111. Provide as much identifying information as you can. A picture is very helpful. That way they can help share that word with all of their resources, and we can also deliver that to you.
And besides that road closure that you mentioned, the big thing right now, which is what this area does not need in Kerr County, as we heard from meteorologist Ryan Shotton, we'll get to him in just a bit, is the rainfall that's falling right now, because you've got those search and rescue operations continuing, and these include volunteers. So I think the sheriff had mentioned that they had pulled certain volunteers out of certain areas just out of precaution, because of course that entire area is saturated. It is not safe for people at this hour. The other thing that came out of it was the question of the warnings and alerts that day on July 4th, and something that the city manager Dalton Rice had mentioned, which I don't think we haven't heard up until this point, was saying that they are going to do a full review of their alerts and warnings of their systems in place and take clear steps for future preparedness, using his words there. And that is something I don't think we have heard up until this point, because there's been so many questions regards to the warnings and the evacuations that happened or did not happen on July 4th. You know, those are a lot of things that we're still trying to figure out at this hour. Of course, the priority for officials, and has been, is this 24/7 operation of still trying to find people. I mean, you've got loved ones out there still holding on to that hope that their loved one is still out there, and we've been hearing some of those stories.
Back to the governor's presser, Chief Nim Kidd with the Texas Department of Emergency Management, he paid close attention to using that word recovery, because never have they said that they have lost all hope, that those who are still missing have perished. They are focusing on these as rescue operations. So he said by recovery efforts, we're talking about debris cleanup, we're clearing the roads. That is where their focus is right now, and of course on rescuing those who are still missing. So again, more expected storms. That was a big focus that the governor started with in his update. Life-threatening danger in the Kerrville area over the next 24 to 48 hours, he said. Kerrville, though, remains the key focus. You have multiple law enforcement agencies responding there, not just to help with the rescue efforts, but they're offering the grief counseling. They are helping address many families' greatest concern, of course. Where are my loved ones, and how do I get through this?
Right, and I think that's the biggest thing, that, you know, getting those resources there, because there's such a effect for all these families, and trying to get them that comfort. And then, of course, the resources, you know, in so many aspects of just in life. that they may need. The other thing that I thought was interesting that came from the state news conference from the governor was regards to this special plane that's also coming with the specialized equipment. They said it's kind of like an eyes in the sky that's going to be helping with the rescue efforts right there, and how that it's flying above Kirk County to be helping along with the boots that are on the ground. But of course, you know, they also have drones that have thermal imaging, because they've been saying that they haven't been stopping with the search and rescue operations, you know, even through the night. As well as obviously, you know, right now. And the big thing that the governor also mentioned was that President Trump approving the major disaster declaration for Texas, meaning that FEMA funds, as well as FEMA assistance and resources, you know, from across the nation also coming into Kirk County, as that area is definitely needed with a lot of help. Because you think about the first responders, not only locally that have been working tirelessly since Friday, but also from across the state, because it's been nonstop. So obviously you've got Texas DPS too that had mentioned that they're trying to fill in the gaps, even with 911 emergency dispatchers, because they keep getting inundated with phone calls right now as well. So it's definitely help is needed from all different areas right now.
And the last warning that they shared, stay off the lakes if we get more rain, because officials with the River Authority, they said it's just not a good time to be out, period, even though it's a very popular time to do so. A lot of saturation right now, meaning it may make flooding easier. That's where meteorologist Ryan Shoptaw comes in. Ryan, any updates on these advisories, watches, and warnings?
Yeah, so the watch continues until 7 o'clock tonight, guys. That includes San Antonio, Kerrville, most of the hill country for this evening. And here's the most active warning that's out there. Remember, a watch is watching out for the potential, and the environment is conducive for it happening. Warning is imminent. It's happening right now. And here's the warning for Gillespie and Kerr County. This is until 6:30 tonight. This is a lot of lightning. This was moving into Fredericksburg, but part of this storm started to collapse and rain out. With that being said, still some moderate rain out in Fredericksburg at this moment, but the larger part of the storm is still continuing to move east-southeast in southern portions of Gillespie County. And it's also including northern portions of Kerr County. Just to reiterate, that's until 6:30 tonight. So for the next 2.5 hours, more rain can still form like west of 290, and that could continue to push towards parts of Kerr County and parts of Gillespie County. Let's zoom out and show you. So that's the flood warning. Now, these particular storms that are firing off on the backside, these have not been issued particular specific flood warnings. So we're watching this closely, because if you compare, they're very similar in electricity and thunderstorm. Lots of thunder with this one, and a lot of lightning just south of I-10 and southwest of Harper. That'll continue to move southeast, but this is part of a couple of different warnings out there. So that one's in effect until 6:30 tonight, and then we have this one in effect until 7:30. So this is a separate one. So for another hour, this one's moving into parts of Texas 27. Huge amount of lightning associated with this storm, with some even more showers and storms on the western fringe of that. But this is going to head into Ingram. Just a heads up there. There's Ingram right there. There's Hunt. Hunt is now getting in a lot of the action. There's a heavy amount of rain that's starting to push into Hunt. There's Texas 39. There's Ingram. There's 27. And then east is Kerrville. And remember, the Guadalupe River runs right through this area, and this is going to just aggravate the situation. There's FM 1340, there's Hunt, and this amount of rain is moving into western and central portions of Kerr County. We're going to have to watch this very closely, because this has been issued a flood warning by the Weather Service until 7:30 tonight. Now, I don't think this stays over the same area, Hunt, Ingram, Kerrville, for the next 2.5 hours. I think it moves east gradually for the next hour, and then it should be mostly east by about 5:30 later on tonight. So it's going to continue to propagate towards Kerrville, so that'll impact Ingram and Kerrville over the next couple of hours, and we'll have to watch how that interacts with the atmosphere and what kind of precip rates we're looking at for the next couple of hours. There's the overall look at radar. Notice that there is more activity towards the northwest. With that being said, more storms are now starting to fire off along the border of Medina and Bexar County in San Antonio. And then there's right here, there's the flood advisory for northern Gillespie County. That's still in effect until 5:45 tonight, but notice the trend. That particular storm started off hot and then moved southeast and then almost waned down. The concern now shifts farther south towards Kerr County and just north of Kerrville and southern portions of Gillespie County, where there's a lot of lightning. This is in effect until 6:30 tonight. This particular one right here, but this one into Hunt and just near Ingram, that's in effect until 7:30 tonight. So two separate warnings, one that includes parts of Gillespie County and then one that's just pretty much in the central portion of Kerr County, which does include Hunt, Ingram, and the Guadalupe River. So we're going to have to watch that very closely because that situation is volatile. We already have a lot of saturated ground out there, and any rain that falls will be a byproduct of runoff, and that can be a problem very, very fast. Here are the 12-hour rain estimates. So you can see today it was pretty quiet in the morning and afternoon, but notice it gets a little bit more active with those storms. So far, and just keep in mind the rain's continuing to fall. This is what the radar is estimating outside of Fredericksburg. You can see as we zoom in outside of Fredericksburg about 3.5 inches in some localized areas, and then we zoom out and go towards Ingram, where again this is a problem along the Guadalupe near Hunt and Ingram. Radar is estimating around, let's say, 2.5 inches already, and that rain is continuing to fall across that part of the hill country. So so this just happened right now, real time. A river flood warning for the Guadalupe just issued right here between Hunt and Ingram that flows all the way through Kerrville and down to Comfort. So we're going to have to watch the result of this. I mean, you saw on that radar estimate already producing 1 to 2 inches of rain already, and then add in a pretty large storm that's generating a ton of lightning. That may add insult to injury and likely drop another inch to 2, which could result into total 4 to 5 in some localized areas because of this storm that's continuing to drop south and southeast. Depending on how fast or slow it moves, right now it's moving south and southeast. Very slow over Texas 39. There's Ingram and there's Hunt. So again, just to reiterate, a river flood warning just issued by the National Weather Service. This is for the Guadalupe, already a dangerous situation. And then also a flood warning for central portions of Kerr County until 7:30 tonight. We'll just have to see how fast or how slow these showers and storms move. Right now, they're drifting farther south. That'll be the good news, but just depending on how slow it moves over Kerr County. But several different flood warnings, one for the river, the Guadalupe, and then one for central Kerr County south of I-10. So this is an evolving situation. We're going to keep a close eye on this, be weather aware, have a way to get notifications, push alerts into the palm of your hand, have the KENS 5 app ready to go. We'll be live for the next little bit talking about this flood warning and ongoing rain across the hill country, guys.
We'll see in just a bit. Thanks so much, Ryan. Just not good for that area right now, especially when you're talking about search teams along that area, and we're hearing about evacuation orders underway.
And that's in Center Point, where we find KENS 5's Sue Kalberg. Search and rescue missions were happening at the last time we saw you, Sue. Mandatory evacuation underway. What is the situation like now?
Everything you said is true, but as we just heard in the briefing, they don't expect a catastrophic rise. But I'm going to draw your attention over here to the dam in Center Point at Lions Park, because we've now been standing here for about half an hour and the water level has not come up yet. Now, what happened was we were a couple of miles downstream, and somebody from the Center Point Volunteer Fire Department, we were with a group of about 20 or 30 searchers who were actually on the bed and banks of the river going through debris piles, and a fellow from the fire department came and he spoke on his loudspeaker and he said, this is a mandatory evacuation, go to higher ground. We're checking out reports that there is a wall of water coming, and he said leave now. And these 20 or 30 people all jumped in their vehicles and they made it out quickly to higher ground. So that's why we came over here to look at the water level. And if it gives you any comfort at all, they had a fellow who was here at the top of this hill guarding this crossing to keep people from coming this way when all of that was going on, but they've now removed that guy. And we have not noticed the water level coming up pretty significantly. I mean, maybe barely over there on the far side of the dam. If it was really rising, we would see it on the far side over there on the spillway. And I've been standing here watching it with my eyes and I haven't seen it. Now that's not to say that it won't happen, because we are certainly below Ingram and Hunt here in Center Point. We're certainly above Comfort. So, you know, if it happens in the next hour or so, it may take the water a while to get here. But what I heard him say was they didn't expect a catastrophic rise like we saw the other night. Now, with that being said, I'd like to talk to you for just a moment about the other things that are going on here, because when we first pulled up, the fellow said one of the things that they're dealing with that just illustrates the force of the water is that way over on the opposite bank, there is a full-sized dump truck wrapped around a cypress tree over there. And I mean a full-size dump truck wrapped around a tree. We have no idea where it came from, but it's over there. And then I want to draw your attention to the main Center Point Bridge over the Guadalupe River, because this is a main thoroughfare that thousands of people use every day. It's very important. It has been closed since Friday morning. And I want to draw your attention to the far side of the bridge over there, because when I was here Friday morning, people told me that there was a house that had crashed into the bridge footing over there. And what officials said was, well, it wasn't a full house, it was just a portion of a house, and they didn't really think that it crashed into the bridge, but it sort of, as the water was coming up and down, it sort of landed, if you will, on a bunch of other debris over there. And you can see that there are trees down, there's still big debris piles over there, but everything that was related to that house, to that roof, to that gable that I saw on Friday, it's not there anymore. And when we were by here a couple of hours ago, there were massive amounts of heavy equipment up there removing debris from the footing of the bridge, the approach to the bridge, the underside of the bridge. I don't know if you can see all the way past the bridge, but there's areas of scraped earth where obviously a lot of debris has been removed from the bridge. And then up on top, on the driving surface of the bridge, there are small pieces of equipment that are continuing to remove debris. Earlier when we were here, there were actually big water trucks that were hosing down the bridge, because when the bridge was overtopped by floodwater Friday morning, man, was it a muddy, mucky, nasty mess. So they came in here with high pressure water and they have cleaned the bridge, but when's it going to open? Well, we don't know that. So what we're told that they're waiting on is they wanted to get all of this debris away from that footing of the bridge so that engineers could come in and inspect it and see if there was any structural damage, if the bridge had been compromised, because they didn't want people driving on the bridge, obviously, if it had been structurally compromised. So those are the highlights of what is going on here in Center Point at this hour. As they said, you know, we're going to be continuing to monitor river conditions here. We've got a bird's eye view, and if anything changes significantly, we'll get back to you. But otherwise, man, we have been on a tour, a grand tour today. We saw houses that have been ripped from their foundations. We saw searchers out in the Kerrville area, game wardens, 24 or so. They had canines, they had all kinds of resources with them. They had a long boat that they launched in the Kerrville area. And then, of course, the 20 or 30 searchers that we saw down around Homilius Road, which is south of here, downstream from here. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of relief efforts. When we first pulled into Center Point this afternoon, we were driving down the main drag on 27, and it was church group, church group, church group, church group. There were all these people in every place you could find to park. They had tables set up, they had signs set up, you know, we love you, we bless you, we want to feed you, we're going to give you free food. It was Texas hospitality at its best. So, you know, when we were down with the searchers, they were handing out water bottles, and one woman even came up and offered her home. She said, you know, if you guys are out in it and you even need a break or bathroom break or whatever, you know, she offered her home to us. So that's just indicative of the kind of folks that are responding here. And we're going to stick with it. Back to you guys.
That is what we do as Texans, Sue, and you know the Hill Country needs so much love. and a hug right now. But it's interesting to see, Ryan, when you look at that, and Alicia, as we were just saying, the barks on the trees stripped away, the debris, and then you're talking about more water coming down too.
That's why it's so important, right, Ryan, to clear that debris so the water will stay, hopefully, in the river and things won't be so catastrophic compared to a couple of days ago. What are you seeing now on the radar?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of rain, but this may aggravate the situation, may lead to moderate flooding at a very similar location along the Guadalupe, at Hunt, and at Kerrville as well. So these are two separate flood warnings, one in parts of Gillespie County. This particular cell is weakening, but still providing some heavy rain as it moves just south of Fredericksburg, but it might impact downtown Fredericksburg, but mostly southern Gillespie County. More importantly, south and southeast and southwest, I should say, is another flood warning. This one is for a large storm. So there's Kerrville, right? Right here, there's Ingram. And then right about here, there's Hunt. And that's seeing a lot of heavy rain, a lot of lightning. This particular warning is in effect until 7:30 tonight. People affected, about 2,000. But this is a huge amount of rain that you already know. We've already seen about 12 inches of rain in Hunt and Ingram. Foot of rainfall in central Kerr County. So add this amount of rain, probably an additional 2 to 4 is possible in Hunt. That could just add insult to injury and be a big concern for the Guadalupe, for Hunt, for Ingram. This is moving east-southeast, so this will impact Ingram and Kerrville in the next probably hour or so. So we're watching this very closely. And according to the National Weather Service, there was an additional warning that was issued, a river flood warning, which we'll show you in a second. But from Hunt towards Ingram, the Guadalupe River, about, let's say, 10 minutes ago, was at 8.5 feet, and it is expected to rise to about 12 feet later this evening. So this will rise above the flood stage this evening, and the forecast is to be about 11.7 feet, a few feet from where it is right now, and then eventually it'll fall below the flood stage after midnight tonight. So that's why there's a flood warning for the Guadalupe River between Hunt and near Kerrville down to Comfort, but it's mostly for Hunt right now. So here's radar, larger view of things. We see redevelopment out in western San Antonio, which we'll show you in a second. Heavy rain out near Fredericksburg, but that particular cell really dying off as it drops farther south. The big concern are these three different warnings. We just talked about it. There's the river flood warning right there, more of a brighter green between Hunt and Kerrville. That flood warning will be in effect for this evening for any additional rain that falls into the Guadalupe that could increase that flood stage concern. These other two warnings south of Harper, mostly for this cell right here, these two different downpours. This one's moving farther east towards Fredericksburg, but these storms are almost drifting away from the mean flow and moving farther south and maybe southwest, just depending on how these particular cells interact with each other. They'll likely drift a little bit farther south and southeast, which is why the flood warning extends maybe 5 miles towards Kerrville. So again, there's the flood warning for the Guadalupe for an additional 2 to 3 feet of moisture moving on into the river, and then additional maybe 1 to 2 inches of rain possible with this particular cell in central and northern portions of Kerr County. Here are the 12-hour rain estimates. So this is not accounting for yesterday. This is not accounting for Friday. This is all today. So mostly just in the last few hours. This is what's fallen across Gillespie County and Kerr County. And this is radar estimate. These are not official rain totals, but notice what the radar is suggesting. I mean, some heavy rain outside of Fredericksburg. Already in the last 2 hours, let's say 2 to 3 inches of rain in that lone rogue thunderstorm that moved west of Fredericksburg. But as you saw on radar, really weakening. Let's move towards Kerrville, where that could be a concern. And let's zoom out and move over here. So there's northern Kerr County. And then we sample some of this data. This particular storm has already produced 1 to 2 to maybe 3 inches in some localized areas just southwest of I-10. So there's the highway, there's the interstate, there's Texas 27, and this particular region has already received, on average, an estimate of about 2 to 3 inches just outside of Kerrville. So that's very interesting because they've already seen saturated ground. All the rain that falls will turn to runoff. Here's the setup. So we have all these winds coming in from the south, in East Texas, and then you can see on the wind barbs that they're moving in from the north out in San Angelo. Why that's important, this is what we call a trough, and this is going to continue with the help of daytime heat, high temperatures, upper 80s, lower 90s. That'll continue to fuel a couple of storms in the area. So this is why we have a flooding risk. So we have a flood watch in effect until 7 p.m. tonight. Highest risk will be in western Kerr County, where we saw, heavy rainfall amounts upwards of a foot in these last 72 hours. This does diminish the farther southeast you go towards San Antonio, and then ultimately into our southern counties like McMullen County and Laveau County and B County. Here's the future cast and what to expect this evening. Heat, daytime temperatures, 80s and lower 90s will help fuel more scattered storms in the area. I would say after sunset, generally, these storms will begin to really wane down and weaken and diminish. There could be a couple of isolated cells south around, let's say, the 11 o'clock hour tonight, but most of us seeing less activity and less coverage of rain overnight. By tomorrow morning, some light drizzle, a couple of light showers. We may have to see another impulse of rain out in central Texas, a lot like today, that may move farther south and drop into the hill country, where some areas between Kerrville, Bernie, San Marcos, Hondo, Pleasanton, this is just a forecast model. So, this 2.3 could easily be west or farther north. This 0.73 could easily be towards Blanco County and Johnson City. This is just an outlook on what could happen in localized areas, and the model guidance is suggesting potentially upwards of 2 inches of rain in some areas across the hill country and across south central Texas. So we're watching that very closely. We have an alert set for tonight for the potential, and that flood watch is in effect until 7 p.m. tonight. We'll look at radar one more time before we let you go. So we have 2 flood warnings across Kerr County, one for the Guadalupe and one for central Kerr County, likely in effect for the next couple of hours, just depending on which one you look at. The flood advisory that was in Gillespie County, most of that action is really weakening, but let's zoom in and show you what we have. So there's the activity, and then there's San Antonio. If you're on the western side of Bexar County, between, let's say, there's I-10, La Cantera, there's the Rim, there's, let's say, Helotes right around here. And then towards Alamo Ranch. Seeing a little bit of rain out there. Matter of fact, let's just zoom in onto some of these communities. There's Leon Valley, Bandera Road. There's 151, for example. Wiseman, Brennan High School's right around there. Petrenko Road, heavy amount of rain out there. Near West Creek, the subdivision on the western side of San Antonio. There's Marbach. There's Hunt Lane. There's Grissom Road, 211 out there. So some heavy rain on the western side of San Antonio right now. More of a huge, large storm out near Lytle. Heavy amount of rain out there, producing a little bit of lightning. No hail is associated with these storms. These are all tropical in nature. Additional development down I-35 between Cotulla, Encinal, Pearsall. We're watching areas out here very closely, but obviously they haven't seen much rain compared to the hill country in the last 3 days. The concern for flooding remains across Gillespie County and most importantly Kerr County. So one more time, while this particular cell is weakening, we're watching this very closely because as these storms move farther east and southeast, that may aggravate the situation, producing some lightning, some thunder, and an additional 2 to 4 inches of rain is possible in the forecast as that flood watch remains in effect until 7 p.m. We'll keep our eyes on this storm here on KENS 5 and on air and online, guys.
All right, thanks so much, Ryan. We'll know you'll stay on top of it. And as we will, as this is such a developing story as well, our newsroom is working around the clock. As always, KENS5.com, the KENS 5 app, KENS 5 Plus, downloaded on your TV.
And our team coverage from across the hill country will continue on KENS 5 News at 5:30. We'll see you then.
Wow, that's an interesting flood warning. Can you hear me? Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yes, sir. All right. Well, good evening. I'm meteorologist Ryan Shoptaw with a quick weather update. We have a couple of different flood warnings that are in effect across the hill country, which is a problem with all the rains that's fallen over the last 72 hours. The 11 to 12 inches of rain in parts of Kerr County, any type of rain that continues to fall between now and tomorrow, maybe even through Tuesday, will add insult to injury and continue to fuel into the Guadalupe River and cause some areas of street flooding and some more flash flooding in the area. So here's a look at downtown San Antonio. That's quiet. There's Calaveras Lake. There are some downpours on the western side of San Antonio, which we'll show you in a second. But first, the flood watch. That's in effect until 7 p.m. tonight, including San Antonio, the Hill Country, pretty much every county up the I-35 corridor. Matter of fact, let's show you what we have. There's the flood watch. I mean, it's a huge amount of real estate from the Hill Country, from San Antonio, all the way through the Concho Valley and just southwest of Dallas and Fort Worth. So this is the area between now and pretty much this evening and tonight where there may be some more flash flooding, that could be a concern. So we're watching out for the potential. Now, with a warning that's in place, that's imminent. Now, the storms that were moving through central and southern Gillespie County have really weakened. So Fredericksburg, maybe some lingering light to moderate rain